The old farmer, weathered and worn like the very stones beneath his feet, kicked at the dry, cracked earth. Each grain of sand seemed to whisper tales of a forgotten past, a past he carried within him like a heavy burden. He had seen seasons come and go, empires rise and fall, all reflected in the parched landscape before him. Nothing grew here, and nothing would again. The land was barren, a testament to a destruction so complete, so absolute, that even the seeds of hope refused to take root. The sun beat down mercilessly, baking the earth and amplifying the silence of a place where life once thrived. His sandals were worn thin from years of walking these ruined fields, each step a pilgrimage through the ghosts of his ancestors. The leather, cracked and faded, bore the imprint of countless journeys across this desolate terrain, a map etched onto the soles of his feet. Once the pride of Carthage, a jewel of the Mediterranean, a beacon of trade and culture, a city that dared to challenge the might of Rome. Its harbors bustled with ships from distant lands, its markets overflowed with exotic goods, and its people were renowned for their ingenuity and resilience. Now, only memories remained, scattered like dust across the windswept plains. The grandeur was gone, the vibrancy silenced, leaving behind only echoes of a glorious past. He stood as a solitary figure against the setting sun, a living monument to a civilization lost. Stories of a city that shone on the North African coast, a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. A city whose influence stretched across the sea, connecting continents and shaping the course of history. Its fall was not just a military defeat, but a cultural tragedy that reverberated through the ages. A city erased by Rome, its very existence threatened with oblivion. The conquerors sought not only to subdue its people but to obliterate its memory, to wipe it clean from the pages of history. The Romans had not just conquered Carthage, they sought to ensure it could never rise again. Their victory was not enough. They craved the complete and utter annihilation of their rival. They had plowed salt into its soil, cursing it for eternity. A symbolic act of destruction, a final, devastating blow intended to render the land infertile and uninhabitable. The salt, a symbol of sterility and desolation, became a permanent reminder of Rome's triumph. This was more than war. It was an act of cultural genocide. It was a deliberate attempt to extinguish the flame of a civilization, to silence its voice forever. It was an attempt to erase a people from history, to deny their contributions to the world, and to condemn them to eternal obscurity. But even in destruction, a legacy can endure. The Punic Wars were not a single conflict but a series of brutal engagements. Each war was a chapter in a long and bloody saga, a testament to the enduring rivalry between two great powers. But a century-long struggle that shook the ancient world, reshaping the political landscape and leaving an indelible mark on the Mediterranean. The echoes of their conflict still resonate today, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the enduring power of human ambition. Two empires locked in a death struggle, Rome, the disciplined land power, with its legions of soldiers and its unwavering commitment to conquest. Its strength lay in its organization, its discipline, and its relentless pursuit of expansion. And Carthage, the maritime trading giant, its wealth flowing from the sea and its influence spreading across distant shores. Its power resided in its vast network of trade routes, its skilled sailors, and its ability to adapt and innovate, collided in a brutal contest for the Mediterranean, a struggle for dominance that would determine the fate of the ancient world. The sea became a battleground, the waves stained with blood, as these two titans clashed for control. Their struggle was about more than territory. It was about control of trade routes, access to resources, and the very balance of power in the ancient world. It was a clash of civilizations, a collision of values, and a struggle for cultural survival. Legendary generals Hannibal and Scipio led their armies into battle. Epic battles, Cannae and Zama, became synonymous with carnage and strategic brilliance. And the suffering of ordinary people defined this era, their lives disrupted, their homes destroyed, and their futures uncertain. They were the silent victims of a conflict that consumed their world. The farmer let the salty earth trickle through his fingers, feeling the weight of history in his hands, a symbol of loss and memory, a reminder of the price of war and the enduring power of the past. He was now a Roman subject, his customs fading, his language slowly being replaced. The conquerors sought to assimilate him into their culture, to erase his identity and make him one of their own. But the memory of Carthage persisted in stories and in the barren land itself, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of cultural identity. The tales were whispered in hushed tones, passed down from generation to generation, keeping the flame of Carthage alive. The Punic Wars were over, but the scars remained. But their questions about power, ambition, and the cost of victory lingered, echoing through the ruins and haunting the dreams of those who survived. The ambitions of empires are paid for by the lives and lands of ordinary people, their sacrifices often forgotten in the grand narratives of history. The ruins on the horizon were a silent testament to that truth, a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the enduring legacy of loss. In the 3rd century BC, Rome was a rising republic, built on order, law, and the discipline of its legions. Across the sea, Carthage reigned as a mercantile empire, its power rooted in trade and a mighty navy. Rome relied on citizen soldiers. Carthage hired mercenaries from across the world. The island of Sicily, a crossroads of the Mediterranean, became the flashpoint. When mercenaries in Messana called for help, both Rome and Carthage answered, setting the stage for war. Rome, lacking a navy, saw a chance to check Carthaginian power on its doorstep. For Carthage, Roman interference was an intolerable threat. The First Punic War began, a brutal 23-year struggle that would change the balance of power forever. Two superpowers were now on a collision course from which there was no turning back. The First Punic War erupted in 264 BC. It was a clash of titans, a struggle for dominance over the Mediterranean Sea. This was primarily a naval conflict and one for which Rome, a land-based power, was initially unprepared. They were more accustomed to marching legions than commanding fleets. Early Roman defeats at sea were numerous and often devastating. But these setbacks were met with relentless determination, a refusal to yield in the face of adversity. Displaying remarkable adaptability, they captured a Carthaginian ship, meticulously studied its design, and reverse-engineered its construction. From this single captured vessel, they began to build a fleet, a testament to Roman ingenuity and resourcefulness. Shipyards buzzed with activity as Rome transformed itself into a naval power. But Rome didn't just copy Carthaginian designs, they innovated. Their most significant invention was the Corvus boarding bridge. This ingenious device turned sea battles into brutal infantry brawls, effectively negating Carthage's naval superiority and playing directly to Roman strengths in close-quarters combat. At Mylae, in 260 BC, the Corvus delivered Rome its first major naval victory, a turning point in the war. Despite this victory, the war dragged on for over 2 decades, a grueling test of endurance for both sides. In a bold strategic move, Rome even invaded North Africa, carrying the war to Carthaginian soil. However, this invasion ultimately ended in disaster, with heavy losses for the Roman army. Yet Roman resolve never wavered. They refused to be broken by defeat, displaying a remarkable resilience. Undeterred, they rebuilt their fleets with funding generously provided by private citizens, demonstrating the unwavering commitment of the Roman people to the war effort. This relentless pressure slowly but surely wore Carthage down, draining its resources and manpower. Finally, in 241 BC, at the decisive Battle of the Aegates Islands, off the coast of Sicily, the fate of the war was sealed. In a crushing blow, Rome decisively defeated and destroyed the Carthaginian navy, effectively cutting off their supply lines. With its fleet gone and its economy in ruins, Carthage, bankrupt and utterly exhausted, had no choice but to sue for peace. As the victor, Rome gained control of Sicily, a strategically vital island in the Mediterranean. Rome also imposed a heavy indemnity on Carthage, crippling its economy for years to come. But despite the peace treaty, the peace was uneasy, a mere truce rather than a genuine reconciliation. Deep Carthaginian resentment simmered beneath the surface, fueled by the humiliation of defeat and the burden of the indemnity, setting the stage for a new champion to emerge. This resentment would eventually boil over, leading to a new war, a conflict that would once again plunge the Mediterranean into chaos. The Mediterranean, a cradle of civilization, would not know peace for long, as the seeds of future conflict had already been sown. Carthage, though defeated in the First Punic War, was humbled but unbroken. The spirit of its people remained resilient, and the ambition to challenge Rome still flickered. It began to rebuild its power and influence in Spain, a land rich in resources and manpower. This strategic expansion would prove crucial in the coming conflict. This resurgence was largely driven by Hamilcar Barca, a brilliant general, and later his son, the legendary Hannibal. Hannibal, from his earliest childhood, was sworn to an oath of eternal hatred against Rome, a vow that would shape his destiny and the course of history. He rose quickly through the ranks, and in 221 BC at a young age, became Carthage's commander, inheriting his father's ambition and strategic vision. Hannibal was not only a brilliant military strategist, but also a ruthless and charismatic leader, capable of inspiring fierce loyalty in his troops. His ultimate goal was clear: to strike directly at Rome's heart and bring the Republic to its knees. The spark that ignited the Second Punic War came at Saguntum, a strategically important city. Saguntum was a Roman ally in Spain, a protectorate that Rome was bound to defend. In a bold move, Hannibal besieged and eventually sacked the city, defying Roman power and authority. This act was a direct challenge, daring Rome to respond and defend its interests. Rome, outraged by the attack on its ally, demanded Hannibal's surrender to face justice in Rome. But Carthage, emboldened by Hannibal's successes and still harboring resentment from the previous war, refused to comply. With diplomatic efforts exhausted, war was formally declared, plunging the Mediterranean world into another epic conflict. However, Hannibal, ever the strategist, would not simply wait for Rome to bring the fight to him on Carthaginian territory. He knew that Rome controlled the seas, making a direct naval assault on Italy a near impossibility. Therefore he conceived a daring and unprecedented plan, a strategy that would defy all expectations. He resolved to invade Italy by land, taking the war directly to the Roman heartland. Hannibal would personally lead his army on this perilous journey, a force that included fearsome war elephants, beasts of war that would strike terror into the hearts of his enemies. Over the formidable barrier of the Pyrenees Mountains, through the territories of hostile Gaul, where he would have to contend with fierce Celtic tribes, and finally, across the treacherous and snow-covered Alps, a feat considered nearly impossible. It was a gamble of immense proportions, a feat of military audacity that no one had ever dared to attempt before. If he succeeded in this audacious endeavor, he would force Rome to fight for its very survival, not in distant lands but on its own sacred soil, threatening the very existence of the Republic. And so, the Second Punic War had officially begun, a clash of civilizations that would determine the fate of the ancient world. The world would soon witness the military genius of Hannibal Barca, and his name would be etched forever in the annals of history. The fate of empires, the balance of power in the Mediterranean, now hung precariously in the balance, dependent on the outcome of this monumental struggle. Hannibal's legendary march to Italy, a testament to his strategic brilliance and the unwavering loyalty of his troops, would become the stuff of legend, inspiring awe and fear for centuries to come. In 218 BC, Hannibal's army, tens of thousands strong with war elephants, set out for Italy. The march through Gaul was brutal, but the true test was the Alps snow, ice, and hostile tribes decimated his forces. The crossing was a logistical nightmare. Men and animals died by the thousands. Hannibal's leadership was the glue that held his diverse army together. He inspired his men by sharing their hardships and pointing to the plains of Italy below, promising victory. After 15 harrowing days, a battered remnant emerged onto Italian soil. Hannibal had lost half his army, but he had achieved the impossible. His sudden arrival in Italy shocked Rome to its core. The war was now on Roman soil and Hannibal's legend was born. The psychological blow to Rome would echo for generations. Hannibal's arrival in Italy unleashed a string of devastating victories. At Cannae in 216 BC, he lured Rome's massive army into a trap, encircling and annihilating it in one of history's greatest tactical feats. Tens of thousands of Romans died in a single day. The Republic teetered on the brink of collapse. Panic gripped Rome, but the city refused to surrender. Instead, Rome adopted the Fabian strategy, avoiding direct battle, harassing Hannibal, and wearing him down. Hannibal's hopes for reinforcements faded as Rome's allies held firm. The war in Italy became a stalemate, with Hannibal undefeated but unable to deliver the final blow. Rome's resilience would prove decisive. The tide was turning and a new Roman leader was about to emerge. The fate of the Mediterranean hung in the balance. In Rome's darkest hour, a new hero rose, Publius Cornelius Scipio. Young, innovative, and charismatic, Scipio learned from Hannibal's tactics and struck back in Spain, capturing New Carthage. He won over local tribes and shattered Carthaginian power in Iberia. Scipio then proposed a bold plan: invade North Africa, and force Carthage to recall Hannibal. Granted command, he landed in Africa in 204 BC, forging a crucial alliance with Numidian cavalry. The threat to Carthage was too great. Hannibal was summoned home. The final showdown came at Zama in 202 BC. Scipio's disciplined legions and superior cavalry broke Hannibal's army. Hannibal was defeated. Carthage sued for peace. The Second Punic War was over. Rome emerged as the dominant power and Scipio earned the title Africanus. Hannibal's legend endured, but Rome's star now rose over the Mediterranean. The age of Carthage was ending. The world had changed forever. The peace after Zama was harsh. Carthage lost its empire, navy, and independence. Yet, even a weakened Carthage was too much for Rome's hardliners led by Cato the Elder, who demanded its destruction. When Carthage finally defended itself against Numidian raids, Rome seized the excuse to declare war. The Third Punic War was a 3-year siege, not a battle. Carthage's citizens fought desperately, melting statues for weapons and using women's hair for catapult ropes. In 146 BC, Roman forces stormed the city, killing or enslaving the population. Carthage was reduced to ashes, its ground, legend says, sown with salt. Rome had eliminated its greatest rival. The Mediterranean was now Rome's domain. The age of Carthage was over, forever. The destruction of Carthage marked Rome's uncontested supremacy in the Mediterranean. The wealth and lessons of the Punic Wars fueled Rome's transformation from republic to empire. The strategies of Hannibal and Scipio shaped military thinking for centuries. The wars are a cautionary tale about rivalry, ambition, and the cost of total war. Cato's relentless call for Carthage's destruction warns of the dangers of political hatred. The final act was not necessity, but vengeance, a dark precedent for Rome's future. Hannibal and Scipio remain icons of leadership and genius, but the wars were truly shaped by the resilience of ordinary people. The echoes of Rome and Carthage still shape our world, in law, language, and the lessons of history. The Punic Wars remind us that history is forged in struggle, and its consequences last for millennia. The rivalry of Rome and Carthage changed the world, and its legacy endures.